Hey, this is a tutorial for building a search bar in React using no outside libraries. So we're just going to do it from scratch in React using the React framework. So this is the completed one that I have built, so you can see the functionality we're going for. Basically, I have a list of words, and when you start typing in, I want it to match what we've typed in so far. And using the mouse, you can go select one of those, and it will complete the selection for you. Or you can use the arrow keys and the enter button to achieve the same effect. Great. So that's what we're going for. This is basically the same thing, except it's in a starter phase where nothing happens so far. It lets you type in the box. We have a Google logo, and we have a microphone logo, and that's it. So this is the starter code. On component did mount, I'm actually grabbing this array of words from this file and setting it here. And then this is keeping track of what's in that input box. So as the user types in, we get this change event, which basically just takes the input they've typed in and sets it onto state, and that's being represented here. And then you can see in the JSX we have the Google logo, the input, and the microphone logo, and that's it. So we're starting from scratch. This is great. So when I approach a problem like this, I like to break it down into easy, simple steps. So looking at it from this point, you can say, okay, when I start typing in, I want to map over that array of words that I have on state. For any item in there that starts with this, I want to push it to a new array, and then I'm going to map over that array and display those elements right here in that little box that pops up. That's the first step. The second step, I would say, okay, well then I want to be able to when the mouse is over any of those, I want the background to be gray. And if I click on one, I want to trigger an event that will set state. It'll set this user input equal to whatever I clicked on. And then the same thing when the enter key is pressed and with the arrows. I want to change which row is highlighted with the arrows, and when you click enter, I want to take whatever's in that box and add it onto the state. So let's get started with that. So I already have a function going. When they start typing in, it's keeping track of what they've typed in. So let's do this. We have the words array. So let's map over that array. Let's see, let's use let, because that's better. Okay, now if the item at position I starts with the input the user has typed in, then we will push it to this array. And I actually haven't created that yet. Let's see. Okay, so we have this blank array. At the end of this for loop, this matches array will have any item from this array that starts with what the user has typed in. Perfect. So let's set that here, and we'll actually just add that here. Okay, so that array is keeping track of our matches. So basically we can map over that right here. So I'm going to create a container. And inside of there, we will map over that matches array. And for every element in that array, we'll return a p element equal to the item. Okay, and then I have some pre-built CSS classes ready to go here. Basically, it's just styling though. So this video is more for the functionality, but basically that just makes it look pretty. So let's see how it works. So it takes all of the items in the words array that start with A, adds them to this matches array. So this is the visual representation of the matches array, and it was just continue typing, it changes. I have a CSS effect so that on hover it's turning gray, but if I click on it, nothing happens, and the arrows don't do anything yet. So let's do the mouse next. Let's say if I click on one of these, I want to take that value and pop it up here, and then I want to get rid of these suggestions since I've already selected one. So if I click on one of these P elements, Let's see. This dot select here. That's probably behind my my webcam. So let's do that. So we're going to select autocomplete at position I. And basically what that's going to do, it will set the user input equal to whatever is in that matches array at that index. We want to take that and put it up in the user input, and then we want to clear out the matches array. So that'll be blank at the end. Okay, let's go see if that worked. So if I click apple pie, it takes that value, puts it up here, and then it gets rid of the matches array here. So that's great. We're halfway there. Next, I want to do the same effect with the arrow keys. So as the arrow keys are pressed, I want to change which row is highlighted. And then if I press the enter key, I want to take that value and put it up here. So for me, in my mind, I'm like, well, let's just keep track of that on state, right? We can keep track of which row should be highlighted on state and then use that as a value in the render method to determine which row should be highlighted. Let me show you what I mean. So if I have row highlighted as a variable here, let's start it off at 1 so you can see what we're doing. So when we're returning this p element, if this .state.row highlighted is equal to the index that we're on right now, we want to set a gray background. Otherwise, on all the other ones, we want a white background. And then each of these p elements will get a style prop. Woo! Caps lock was on. Let's see. That sets the background equal to that variable we just created. So they're all going to be white, except for the one that is equal to this variable on state, which we're going to start off as a 1 just to see it, just to visualize it. So you'll see that the first one is gray. Now, that inline JSX style is overriding my CSS hover event. So I'm actually going to add, well, hold on, let's stick with the keys for a minute. Okay. The user is interacting with this input. So let's listen for a key down on this input. And let's handle key press. And this event records a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to pass it into this function, handle key press. And the one that we want to use is e.key. Basically, it gives you which key was pressed. So let me show you. If I type the letter A pops up. If I hit enter, that's the literal string that I need to listen for the enter key. Up arrow is arrow up, down arrow is arrow down. So those are the ones that we want to listen for right here. So if e.key is arrow up, oh man, there we go. I want to do something. If it's arrow down, I want to do something different. And if it's enter, I want to do something different. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to grab row highlighted off of this .state, and if it's arrow up, we want to go towards 0. We want to go towards the top of that array, visually looking at the page. And the opposite here, if they press the down arrow, we want to go down towards the end of the array. And then at the very end, we will set state for row highlighted. Okay, so that moves the highlighted portion, but you'll notice it goes off the end of the array. So basically, I want it to go off to right there to -1, and then I want it to end at the last item in the array. So that should be our bounds. So if row highlighted is greater than -1, we'll keep going down. Once it hits -1, we want to stop. And if row highlighted is less than matches.length, -1, the last item in the array. So at that point we want to stop. So that will limit how far it lets us go. Another thing that we want to do is when they press enter, we want to take whatever value is at, let's see, this dot state dot matches this dot state dot, oh wait, row highlighted, we already grabbed that. So whatever row is highlighted in that matches, we want to grab that value. Oh, you know what we can do? Let's do this. This is better. We already have a function set up that takes an index and sets the user state based on that index. So really what we can do, if they press enter, we can just select autocomplete at row highlighted. That is the index that we want to set. And there we go. Let's see. So if I do apple pie and hit enter, boom, it worked. Okay, also I don't want it to really start at value 1. That looks funky when you load the page. I want it to start right off the array at -1. Another thing I want to do is I want to limit it so that it only gives us up to 10 values. So no more than 10 results will ever show in our box. That keeps our box from being really huge if you have a ton of data like Google or something. And then the other thing I want to do is if they backspace all the way, let me show you. If you backspace all the way, I don't want this whole list to show up. So basically, if there's nothing typed in, I don't want anything to show. So if there's something in input, we want to carry all this stuff out. Otherwise, it just skips the for loop and it sets a blank array there. So that's basically it. There's maybe one more bug here where, and I already touched on this, but the CSS is being overridden here. So the highlighting is being controlled completely on state now. So basically, anytime the mouse is over one of these, we want to set that variable on state. So that's pretty easy. On the P element, we can add a on mouse over event. And we'll set the row highlighted equal to whatever index we're on, whatever index this P element is. Okay, also React's going to want us to do a unique indicator for each element in the map. Okay, so set row highlighted to this index. Let's build that function. So that takes an index and it sets row highlighted equal to that index. So that should allow us to use our mouse now. See, okay, so now it's highlighting with the mouse. If we use the mouse to click, there it goes. And if we use the arrow keys and select one, there it is. So that's basically it. This is just to kind of demonstrate how easy it is to build something like this in React from scratch. You don't have to use an outside library. I hope you liked the tutorial. Leave any comments you have in the comment section, like or subscribe, and I hope to see you in some future videos. Thanks.